have been having a really great time these last few weeks doing these sessions, and we hope you've been enjoying them too. I'm really super excited. I have Mark Paradies with me today. Howdy, Mark. This is really fun. We've been having a great time. It's a relaxed environment. We can just kind of talk about some of these topics we're going to, and today we're talking about the keynote speakers at the Global Summit.
And the summit in general.
But one of the key things I wanted to talk about really quick is 30 years. I mean, congratulations on an amazing, building such an amazing company. I mean,
thank you.
You and Linda Unger were visionaries to create the TapRooT system. And when you created it 30 years ago, did you envision the far-reaching effects that TapRooT would have globally 30 years later?
No. No, in fact, I don't think we even really envisioned TapRooT to start with. What we thought we'd be doing is developing custom root cause systems for every company we came across. So two of our first three contracts were developing custom root cause systems. And then we sort of discovered after that people didn't want to pay $100,000 or $500,000 to have you do custom work for them, that they wanted a standard system that just helped them find root causes, and there was a systematic way to do it, and that they got good results, and that they were happy with what it did for them. And so that's really what TapRooT came from. So I guess we started in '88. It wasn't probably till about the end of 1990 probably that we really thought about, we ought to just have a standard system.
And all the clients I deal with around the world, different industries and stuff, this standard system seems to fit the bill. It seems to take care of what the needs are.
What I think is that we discovered was that people make mistakes for the same kind of reasons no matter where they are, no matter where they are around the world, no matter what kind of industry in. Yes, there's different education levels. Yes, there's slightly different cultures. Yes, people aren't all the same. But when you look at the root causes of problems, you really can think and see how they're made and make a system that helps other people see how people make those mistakes and find fixable causes that they can do something about. I think that's really important.
I think when a milestone comes up, you kind of look back and you think about things. And a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about how many people probably have been trained in TapRooT over the years. And
wow.
It's, over the last few years, we've been averaging about 10,000 a year.
It's been longer than that.
And so,
so I think we're well over 100,000.
I think we've trained well over 100,000 people in TapRooT. And to know, that is amazing, but it's also, there's still so much growth potential out there. So many people who could still use TapRooT and need to use TapRooT in their companies.
I remember when we were starting up system improvements, one of the first big contracts we got was for the NRC. And one of the things we got to do was go out and talk to all these different people about root cause analysis because we were doing this research. And one of the people I got to talk to was a guy named Jerry Lederer. And he was 95 maybe? So Jerry was he pre-flighted Lindbergh's plane before Lindbergh flew across the Atlantic.
Wow.
And he was the original, created what became the National Transportation Safety Board. And so this is a guy with a huge amount of history in aviation safety. And I was talking to him about what we're doing, and I showed him a piece of what TapRooT became. And he said, you're going to live a really interesting life.
Oh, well, I believe
and
it.
I thought that was so interesting. And he lived to, he was, I think, 103 when he finally died. And I remember at 95, he was getting ready to fly over to China and give an aviation safety talk.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, boy, if I could be that way when I get to be 95, that'll be great.
The people that you've met having this as your business, and you've been out there in the world for such a long time sharing TapRooT. And I think that, just the people that I've been able to encounter by working here and hearing their stories it's life-changing to know that what you do on a daily basis does change people's lives, saves people's lives.
And that sort of rolls back into the summit too, because you get to meet those people over and over and over again at the summit. The summit is really a great place to meet people, And I try to make it even more so by the speakers that we pick who are going to be at the summit. Both the general session speakers, the keynote speakers, and the breakout people who have breakouts. So I think it's just, and the other thing that's amazing about it is, you go with these big conferences with like 1,000 or 2,000 people there, and it's really hard to sit down and talk to a speaker.
Right.
But at the summit, you really do get to go talk to the speaker, and you might not get hours with them, but you get minutes, and you get to talk and ask questions and have a real sort of a relationship with them and get to meet them. And that's something I think that's really unique to the summit, and that we have about 350 people there that you really get to spend time with people.
We get so excited this time of year because it's like we're kicking it up, getting ready for the summit. Everybody's just super busy. It's overload excitement here because it's our favorite.
It's a big deal for us.
It is a big deal.
I mean, back in 93 or maybe 94, I think it was 93, I like to say that I belong to every professional society on earth, but I don't, because there's so many of them. But I belong to a lot of safety, quality, process safety, all those kinds of things. And they all have conferences.
Yeah.
And some of them are centered around safety, some of them are centered around quality, some of them are centered around an industry like refining. Some of them they have general stuff that's good. I don't see anything wrong with any of those things, but what they don't do is focus on performance improvement and root cause analysis. And so I thought, well, gosh, there isn't any kind of conference for this. I think I want to make a conference for our TapRooT users and for non-TapRooT users who want to learn more about performance improvement and root cause analysis. And now we have 7 different tracks, which is a lot bigger than we initially started out with. And I remember our first summit was 35 people, and we held it in Gatlinburg at this, I don't know, I'll never hold another one at that hotel, but it was a small hotel, and they had a flood the week before, and so all the downstairs meeting space had been flooded, so that wasn't available. And it was just one of those where we got a good start. I think we went from 30 to like about 60 to over 100 to like over 150, and we've just been growing and doing better ever since.
Well, and I think one of the key things is we don't just have new people come to the summit every year. There are people who, they plan their year around coming to the summit. It's their conference of choice, and they are back year after year after year, and that proves value.
One of the things we've decided to do is we've decided to have the summit at about the same time of year every year. I don't know if you've noticed in the past, but we've sort of rotated around the year when it's going to be. And so sometimes it was in the early spring, middle spring, late spring, summer, early fall, and then we jump around a year and start again in the early spring. And we sort of did that so if somebody had some other meeting they wanted to go to, they could go to that meeting and go to the summit. And most people don't get to go to 2 meetings anyhow a year. And so I decided, well, we're just going to start holding it at the same time. It's going to be end of February, start of March, maybe all the way to end of March, but we're going to try to hold it in that region all the time so that people can plan to be there every year. And I think that'll be a little easier for people than moving it around.
This next one will be February 26th to March 2nd, and we're going to get to show some Southern hometown hospitality here in Knoxville, which will be fun since we're celebrating
This is the first time ever we've held the summit in Knoxville, and I really want it to be a record number of people attending. So
I think it should be. You've created an amazing summit. You put so much energy into planning this to make sure that the people who come not only have a great time, but they leave with such valuable information. And the keynotes are a prime thing. Sharing of best practices. I look at our clients as some of the stars of the summit too, because of all the value that they add. But the keynotes, you really put a lot of thought into who you pick. And one of the things I found, this will be my, 9th summit, I think, and I go into each keynote not really knowing what to expect, but I come out affected every single time. They're intense stories, emotional, and there's lessons learned that come out of every single one of them. I mean, I'm always in awe of what these people have gone through and what they come back to share and want other people to learn from?
Well, the people who use TapRooT are really out there saving lives, improving the quality of their product or their business services, preventing injuries, making their company work better. And that's just really
It's an honor to
an
get to
inspiring
work with
story.
them.
It really
Yeah.
is an inspiring story. And especially when you start thinking about how many people's lives are being saved every year, it really becomes an amazing thing, because you're really changing, sort of like our motto, changing the way the world solves problems. It really is changing people's lives.
Yeah.
And that really is good to hear about.
It's humbling. Well, so this year, let's kind of get into who we've got coming this year.
I wanted to mention one other thing first.
What?
I wanted to mention, we're going to talk about Keynote, and the Keynote speakers are wonderful, and it's really a great thing that we've got them. And we talked just a little bit about, we started way back long ago saying to make this Performance Improvement Summit, but we also broke it into two kind of pieces. There's the general session or keynote speakers, and there's the breakout speakers. Mm-hmm. And we started out, I think we had a couple or maybe even 3 different tracks at the first summit. I'm not positive we did, but I think we did.
We need to have like a wall of history at the summit.
Oh, I made up a blog post on this, and it
do
went
that.
on for like 20 pages on the blog, and I'm like, okay, that's too much
Maybe we'll
history.
put some of this in
I
our
got a little
plan.
too. I had all the speakers from every year lined out there. It's like, okay, this is carried away.
We'll put this
But
into
but
some of our
it
summit
but
plans.
it but the point of this is, what I'm going to talk about in a few minutes are what's my favorite things at the summit and what I wanted to do. But I make the summit so that you don't have to have the same favorite things that I do. You can customize the summit to be what you want it to be, because there's 7 different tracks, and those are sort of laid out to make it easy for you to pick, this is what I want to go to. But you also can customize inside those tracks, so you can pick what I want to think of as the best from each track to be in your personal track to
Right.
create for yourself. And so just because I think something is important doesn't necessarily mean you're going to think it's important, but you are stuck with seeing the keynote speakers that I picked.
But
So-
they're worth, I mean,
so I hope you like them as much as I do.
Totally blessed.
When I pick the keynote speakers, and I have a budget, and I get to pick anybody I want to come talk. And yeah, there is some limitations because some people are like crazy expensive.
Right.
But for instance, the Deepwater Horizon accident has really been of interest to me, because that is just such an interesting accident, which it's horrible to say something is interesting, but
Yeah.
when people died in it, but it is such a case study
Right, the lessons
for
learned
things
that
that
come
can
out
go
of it.
wrong.
Right,
If that makes
exactly.
sense. And so we had somebody last year talk about him getting prosecuted afterwards, which really didn't have much to do with the accident.
Right.
But this year we've got Mike Williams coming, who was there. I mean,
Right.
if you watch the movie
Deepwater Horizon.
Deepwater Horizon, which
Yes.
you should before you come to the summit, you should get that on
Totally
DVD. Nobody gets DVDs anymore. You should download it to your TV and watch that movie right before the summit, so you have that feeling inside of you. Because you leave that movie, and of course it's Hollywood. It isn't exactly what happened.
Well, I get that, but you know what I've noticed with our keynote speakers on Friday? Because generally, it seems like a motion picture has been made based on the story that will happen.
Gosh,
You'll hear on
have we gotten
Friday.
stuck in that rut?
No, it's not a rut. It's so great because what you get to do is you can watch the movie before you come, and you expect Hollywood to take a lot of artistic license, but these stories are so amazing on their own that when you hear the people talk
are
about
more
them,
amazing than the movie.
It
That's what I
is.
find.
It is.
The people are more. I mean, we've had Mike Durant, who was
Oh,
the
my gosh.
pilot being dragged through the street in Black Hawk Down,
Yeah, that
come and
one-
talk.
that one
We've
was
had the guy who got hijacked on the ship.
Captain Phillips.
Captain Phillips
Yeah.
there. And it's just such an amazing story, and to meet these people face to face.
Lots of Tom Hanks characters.
Well, maybe that's the answer. We just need to have Tom Hanks come talk next year. We can get a whole slew of characters at once.
Well, I like the Mark Wahlberg.
Mark
aspect
Wahlberg,
of
the Mark Wahlberg.
Mike
Unfortunately,
Williams.
Mark isn't going to be there for the summit. We'll have the real person instead. So if you come thinking Mark's going to be there, you're going to be disappointed. It's the real person that's coming. But Mike just has an amazing story to tell. And if you watch the movie, you'll know a little bit about that amazing story he's got to tell, because it really is amazing.
So looking forward to that. But we start off, I was saying.
I've started at the end, and I should have started at the start,
That's
shouldn't
all
I?
right. We can just come back around. Wednesday morning, a lot of these stories have a sad aspect to them, but they have these people really. I love their hearts that they want to get out and make sure things don't happen again to people like it has happened. Wednesday morning, Dr. Carol Gunn.
Okay, so I have a philosophy for the summit.
Yeah.
You start off with a real accident in the
Yes.
morning, because that sort of sets the stage for why are we here.
Mm-hmm.
These are the kinds of things we're trying to prevent. And her sister died due to medical mistakes in a hospital,
Mm-hmm.
and she was there when it happened. And they tried to tell her that her sister died just because, she was sick. She died. It was complications. And that wasn't true. And she's a medical doctor, and she was there, and she said, no, we're going to investigate this, and we're going to figure out what's wrong. What's amazing, so number one, she's got this amazing story about her sister dying.
Right.
Number two, she's a TapRooT user.
I love
She
that.
was trained in TapRooT before she became a doctor. And so she also knows something about root cause analysis. So she's got a very interesting perspective on a very personal medical error that happened to her. And that's just, medical errors are just one kind of error that happens along the way. Whether it's somebody getting a traumatic amputation at work, or somebody getting killed at work, or whether it's a process safety thing that you blow something up and kill a bunch of people, or whether it's a quality thing that hurts your company reputation. All those are accidents, and they all happen for the same kind of reasons, just like medical mistakes do. So even though this is a medical mistake, to lead it off, there's things that everybody can learn from this, and I think it's a good way to start with a personal accident.
You have a good variety from, medical to oil rig explosions.
Yes, yes. I guess that is sort of from hospital to we blew up an oil platform. Yeah,
Well, we have a medical track, so
Yeah, we do.
that fits in very well. I'm real excited about Wednesday afternoon.
Oh, wait. So the medical people who are coming to the summit can also learn from oil platforms exploding. And that's another interesting part about the summit. A lot of places, when they make a conference, it's all from the aspect of quality, or it's all from the aspect of safety, or it's all from the aspect of refining industry, it's all from the aspect of hospitals. You really learn from across all these different industries, and I think that's what makes us unique, is that this cross-discipline, cross-industry learning that occurs really is different than most conferences you go to, and really is valuable to people.
Well, I think that's how it helps teach them. Helps them. You were saying some of them have such excellent performance improvement programs already, but these things they learn from other industries help them think outside the box.
Well, we were talking before.
Yeah.
Before the camera came on, we were talking, and one of the things we were talking about was, I think some of our clients are the best in the world at what they do.
They are.
And that when you have people who are best in the world and are trying to get better, they share their good practices, but sharing a good practice probably doesn't help you improve. But it might help somebody else improve because they hear good practice. But what you don't understand is sometimes you share that good practice and somebody in a different industry has a different spin, and they tell you, well, you could think about this a little bit differently, and even your best practice can be improved. So I think that's, and so we've got this, I remember one guy told me at the summit, you have the smartest people in the world here. And I just thought, wow, that's really cool.
And
we
they're
really have these
committed.
people who are really, exactly,
And the commitment
they're committed to
is
making
huge.
things better. They really are studying and working on it, and they really are good at it, and they're all there sharing, and that's a really good environment.
And I appreciate that being, part of their job is making sure people get home alive. That intelligence and commitment really are
that's really
important.
great. It really is great.
Important. Well, let's talk about Inky.
Okay. Inky Johnson.
Inky Johnson.
Who, if you're not in Knoxville, you probably have no idea what we're talking about, Inky Johnson, but maybe they do.
Maybe. Lately on Facebook, his inspirational videos have been going crazy. I mean,
Right.
I can't pull up Facebook
And he
not
is
see-
very inspirational.
Oh, I can't wait.
Which is the other thing,
I can't
what
wait.
the keynote speakers are really all about is getting you inspired to go back and do something. And I've been to a lot of meetings, I'll call them, where you learn things, but you aren't really inspired when you go back. And when you talk to people before the summit, they're coming to learn specific things. And it's usually in the breakout tracks that they're trying to learn something specific. When you talk to somebody after the summit, what they always talk about is, wow, the keynote speakers were so inspiring. I am so inspired to go back home and get good things done. And that's part of what Inky's job is to get people inspired, and I think he'll do a great job at it. He's a UT football player who was injured on the field, and it changed his whole life. And you might think, I can never play football again, and he was planning to be in the pros, and now he can never play football again. But if you ask him, he'll probably say it made my life better.
That's what I think you would come across with it. If you look up some YouTube videos of Inky speaking, you'll just want to...
We'll have to get one on the blog, so we'll have one there.
We're going to have to do that, because there's one that's just like, I don't know, it's not even...
It's on my Facebook page,
it's
guys.
On your Facebook page. It's like 30
Come join with me
long.
on Facebook, and you can watch it.
Well, it makes me...
You'll have to watch all my other garbage
I want to listen
videos.
to it every single morning when I get up, because...
Yeah, it's that kind of thing.
You
just feel like, go.
And I have no excuses. I mean, it takes away all my excuses. So it's like, okay, girl, get up, let's go. So I think he's going to be amazing.
Yep.
I really can't wait. And he's going to be the keynote speaker right before we go to our reception that night.
So that's Wednesday night.
That's Wednesday night. And then...
we aren't talking about the reception now, though, right?
No.
No, we'll talk about this some other time.
It'll be fun, though. And we'll have Carl Dixon.
Carl's coming again.
And he's... inspiring person himself.
Carl has his own wonderful story. I'm sure he'll be giving a session in the, what do you call that track? The other track. Alternative track. That's what it is.
Track.
It's got all the I don't want to say strange, but it's like special stuff in it. And Carl's talk is one that he's given at the summit now for how many years in a row? 5 years maybe?
It's been a while.
It's been a row. And some people just like to go to it to be inspired again to hear Carl's stories.
During it.
And he's good.
He's so good. We were talking last week or whatever. He's a rock star.
He is. He's a rock star. He's our summit rock star.
And Thursday morning.
Who is Thursday morning?
That would be this really amazing guy. His name is Mark Paradise.
I like to think he's the best speaker of the summit myself.
I tell you what, he's got more blood in the game on the summit
I'll tell you.
than I think anybody, because you've planned the whole thing. And what is your keynote?
What I'm talking about is we have basically rewritten the basis for TapRooT over the past 2 years. We have got now, I think, 6 of the 10 books out. Yeah. By the summit, I think we'll have 9 of the 10 books out. I think we'll have 1 left to go. Okay, I'll tell you, I am committed, because when we rewrite the basis of TapRooT, it takes about 1 year to 2 years out of my life. People here at the office miss me. I don't get in much. I sit and write and write and write, and we take all the stuff we've learned since the last time we wrote it, and we make it even better. Mm-hmm. And so I won't go all the way back, but 2008, let's see, 2000 we rewrote the green book. Mm-hmm. So for those of you, I was talking to somebody on the phone yesterday, I said, what color is your book? And theirs was green. And they said they went to training in 2006. So I said, okay, you missed the black book. Yeah. The black book was the 2008 revision, and that was about 1.5 years of my life. And now we've taken that book and we've broken it up and increased stuff, and now we're going to have 10 different books based on that original book with the latest and greatest stuff in it. And I think the best thing we've done is make it easier to do simple investigations using book 3, which, oh gosh, I don't even remember what the title for book 3 is.
Is it the
low to medium, finding the root causes of low to medium risk incidents. It's a long title.
We have long titles.
Simple TapRooT should have been what it was, but we decided simple wasn't a good use to work in a TapRooT title. But that's what it is, and that probably
that's the basis of our 2-day course now.
That is.
Yeah.
The other thing that I'll talk about that I think it should be really interesting for people, especially being at a TapRooT Summit, is the new book we have out on implementation. Mm-hmm. And there's a section in there where you can sort of, I'll call it grade, or a little checklist on your implementation. And every checkbox in the checklist in the book has probably a page, 2 pages, 3 pages describing what you should be checking. Yes, that's good. Mm-hmm. What it should look like.
And this is going to be the point of your keynote, implementation.
Yes.
Yeah.
So but I'll also talk about using TapRooT simply, although I think I've got a breakout talk about that mainly.
I'm sure you do.
So, but I will get them both talked about, I'm sure.
Well, I think it'll be great. We'll be in the midst of all the breakout sessions at this point. People have had a whole day of the summit so far.
Thursday morning gets started. We don't start till 9 o'clock on Thursday, so you get to sleep in.
After
at least,
the reception on
yes,
Wednesday night.
right.
So
We've learned our lesson. Nobody shows up at 8 o'clock the next morning.
they will to hear you.
Well, I'd like to think that, but we know better. Start at 9.
Thursday afternoon is Vincent Phipps.
Vincent's great. Vince has been at, I think, 2 summits before, although it's probably been a good 10 years since Vince has been at the summit. He's got his own personal story of triumph that he can tell that's occurred since the last time he spoke to someone. But he's an excellent speaker. I just love to hear Vincent talk.
That's what I'm
he's
excited about, yeah.
He's a world-class storyteller, I guess you'd say.
And ghost storyteller.
I've never had him tell me a story about ghosts,
We may
but
have to Wednesday night at the
we need to
reception.
change his topic to ghosts. I don't know. He's never told me a ghost story before, but that'd be interesting.
Yeah. Storytelling's a gift, though.
And he's really good at it. And he's talking about communication, so that's really right up his alley. And
Well, and it fits in. Everybody, like when you're doing investigations and presentations and stuff like that,
you need to
communication
communicate. That's right.
communication
You
is
have
key.
to.
Yeah, it is. And then we've talked about it before, but Friday, when we wind up, after we're going to do the performance improvement warning, and then we'll have the final keynote, which is...
So two things that Friday, plan to stay for Friday. There we
Friday's
go. I've said it. Plan to stay for Friday. Lots of people, I don't know why people think they have to get home in time to have drinks on Friday night.
Well,
but you really need to stay for the morning session
Yeah.
on planning your improvements
It's a huge session.
and the keynote speaker that day, because they are great.
Mm-hmm.
And the morning session, which isn't a keynote, but it is, everybody goes to it. You go to your own sections. And maybe I think we've got them all together this time.
It's a perfect wind-up.
You
to the
really
week.
take what you've learned and put it together into a plan that you know what you're going to do when you get back home. And the goodness of that is you're at like a head start on improving.
Yes.
Because you already know, hey, this is what I'm going to do when I return.
You go home with something
With the
to do.
checklist,
Yeah.
a little checklist of, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do
If
this.
you bring a team of people with you, or another person with you, or something like that, you all are ready to hit the floor running when you get back to work.
You can get your team
Yeah.
together that morning, say who's going to do what,
Right.
and everybody can be on the same playbook, sort of Inky
Yeah.
Johnson stuff, and be ready to go when they hit the ground running on the next Monday morning, which is important because when you get back from being gone for a week, you're overwhelmed.
You are.
And so if you don't have a things that I'm going to do list, you're going to say it was a great summit, but I don't
And
remember what I did
people
even.
really enjoyed that session.
Yes.
They really.
So stay for that, and then stay, of course, for what we started talking about, Mike Williams, who's going to be on talking about his real experience in Deepwater Horizon,
Well, I
which
did see
he's
the
lucky
movie,
he
and
survived,
he is.
and in fact, it really is lucky there weren't a lot more people killed in that accident than there were. It is an amazing story. If you watch the movie, you'll know generally what happened, and it's an amazing story of survival for all those guys.
Oh, it is, and I'm really looking forward to getting to hear his story. I think, and our crowd, I mean, they just are. They've experienced a lot of things in their careers.
You know, a lot of those final, so I remember when I had, so Mike, when I got a hold of him for doing speaking for this, he had never, he's been out and talked to some churches and things, but because of the lawsuits, he really hadn't been on the speaker circuit. So we sort of said, would you do this? And it was a while till he came back and he said, yes, he would. But we've had Scott Waddell.
Yes.
He'd done a few talks, but he'd never really done anything on the speaker circuit. And he had this horrible experience of crashing a submarine into a ship, and he came and talked about it. And he had people in tears in our audience.
Well,
but a lot of
often the
times,
case when we're
but a lot
doing
of
some
times, these
stories.
people, this is not. I don't want to say it's the first time they've ever spoken about it, but it is really early on in their speaker careers, if you will. And it is just so personal and real, and it affects you emotionally.
Oh, I can't imagine. Some of the stories I've heard from these people is, I just can't imagine.
I remember the one with Brian Tink. He was an opening speaker. Brian Tink, I can't remember the guy's name, he was up working on a wire and touched a live wire and got, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of volts went through him. And he was bent over backwards up there in his belt strapped in. and they had to get him down off the line, and he was severely injured, but came back to work, and they were gonna fire him because he kept saying he had all these weird pains. And Brian Tink, who was at that time the manager of safety for the company, went to bat for him, and they worked with a hospital and came up with a whole new way of treating these kinds of injuries, because the damage wasn't just the skin burns that occurred, it was the damage to your nerves, and that really wasn't well understood. And TapRooT became a whole part of a program of how do you heal people after they've had severe electrocutions. And that was another one of those. You get these stories. I mean, you get these stories. You just go, "Oh my goodness!"
That's so humbling to create something that's a part of things like that.
Yep. And that's what we do at the summit. Yeah. That's a typical summit.
That is. I mean,
that's what it's like.
And we get so excited because what we kind of talked a little bit about what you love. I love the same thing that you love at the summit. It's getting back together with our clients and watching the dedication, and it's kind of a home week for us.
I've had people here tell me, why do we keep doing this? Because the summit is not a big money maker for us. It is not like we get rich off the summit. We usually lose money on the summit. But I think it's really extremely important for what the people get out of it. For what our clients get out of it, and for what our instructors get out of it. Mm-hmm. Our instructors go away with all this stuff and all this inspiration every year, and they then have that to share in the courses that we do. And I think that makes our instructors a much better instructor also. So it's not just our clients get something out of it, it's we get something out of it too.
We do. Our clients are the ones that are out there in the field living this day in, day out, and really getting the experience. And like I said, the sharing experiences, your advisory board that you have. Yeah. These are people who, because we love to hear from them.
One of the other things we do at the summit is have our advisory board meeting. I don't know, probably 90% of the people who are watching this don't know about the advisory board, but we got about 60 people who, whenever we make a change in TapRooT, we get them involved in reviewing and providing ideas and suggesting things to improve for the TapRooT system, the books, the training. Even the summit, they suggest things. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times things you'll see in the summit will be things that were suggested. Even keynote speakers sometimes will be suggested people.
Yes.
And so it's an important part of the summit and those people then are there at the summit participating in all those sessions as well.
See, I'm so excited. I can't wait for February. I can't wait for February.
I start planning these about a year in advance. And you get so excited about it, you got to wait a year.
I know,
it's like being a kid waiting for Christmas the next day, except I got to wait a whole year for it to happen.
It is. I'm so excited. Mark, this has been awesome. I've never really sat down and talked to you about all you put into putting the summit together, and the track leaders. So many people put so much time and energy
a lot of work
into putting this together. And, it's obvious to hear your passion for the summit. So you're not going to want to miss coming to this next summit. Like you said, it's February 26th.
If you've taken your time to listen to this, you ought to be at the summit.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're listening.
Yep.
It's February 26th to March 2nd here in Knoxville. Right now, we have registration. We have an early bird registration. We love giving away things, don't we? I
can't talk these people out of giving things away.
We're always giving something away. And right now, for early bird registration, if you register in November, you get 2 tickets in.
2 chances to
win. And if you register by the end of December, you get 1 chance to win an Apple Watch. So that's always fun. So a good reason.
So it'll be a drawing and somebody will win. And every time we've done this, the person has told me, I've never won anything before. And they're really good prizes.
They are.
And people go, wow. And so get your chance. Otherwise, you won't be able to say, I've never won anything before. You have to enter to win.
And then we give away a lot of stuff at the summit, too. So
every day there's prizes.
Yeah.
We just can't help ourselves. We give away prizes.
So you're going to want to join us. That's all I can say. We are looking forward to seeing you in Knoxville. We're going to have videos after this that are going to be about the different tracks that will be at the summit, so you can help decide which one's best for you.
But you can go to our website and look at that now.
Absolutely.
You don't have to wait for the video.
Well, and to register, you go to our website, taproot.com/summit. You can see all the tracks. You can register, and we just want to see you there. So.
And we didn't mention anything. there's actually courses on the 2 days before the summit starts. So the
Right.
summit's a Wednesday through
Yes.
Friday. We have
Pre-summit courses.
pre-summit courses, which are some of those are pretty exciting too. We'll have a whole other video about those.
Well, Barb and I talked about her stuff last week.
You did, didn't
We
you?
did, yeah.
So
about
everybody go to Barb's course. She'll have everybody in her course now, I'm sure of it.
Well,
Because she does talk well about her course.
it's a great course.
Yes, she is.
But,
She's a great instructor too.
We'll be sharing more about all those with you, and you can edit your track, all your summit registration all the way up to the summit. So if you see something you want to do, that's perfectly fine. We're happy to work with you to make it work right for you, so you can get back to your company and make things better.
Yep.
Keep saving those lives. We appreciate it, and I know the people who work with you appreciate it as well. So thank you for joining us, Mark. Thank you. This has been awesome and fun. Seems this fun.
It is great fun.
So we hope to see you next time.